everyone! So today what I'm going to be doing with you guys is I'm going to sort of be taking you through both the Rokku as well as the Gothic Gyaru substyles. I have a group of questions here, so if you see me looking down a lot, that's probably why. I'm gonna try my best here, but shit happens, I don't know. So I'm just gonna dive right into it. So first things first, what look sort of defines these substyles? So for both, they're technically not actual Gyaru substyles. They're part of a sort of umbrella term known as Gyaru-kei. So with this being said, there's a lot of different other styles associated with Gyaru that aren't actually their own substyles. So with this being said, it's a lot harder to dress like these, and it's a lot harder to kind of nail these ones on the head because they are so vague and because they aren't their own styles themselves. So in terms of Rokku Gyaru, it's basically anything that you can see that sort of defines kind of like a rocker girl aesthetic. You'll see a lot of the time like smoky eyes, a lot of black, chokers, crosses, skulls, ripped clothing, short skirts, basically anything that says, you know, really rocking and outrageous kind of looking girl. In terms of goth gal, it's very much like Western goth, only I find with Japanese sort of gyaru as mixed with goth, a lot of the time the pieces are shorter, so you'll see a lot of tutus, a lot of tulle skirts, a lot of fishnet stockings, garter tights, or even like those crazy platform demonia boots. Basically anything goth with a gyaru twist. For both, again, since they aren't technically their own substyles, there's no real critique or sort of, I guess, checklist of things you have to go through to be either. What's attracted me to these substyles? Well, personally, I've had a history of both loving goth fashion as well as gyaru, so to find that you could be both really appealed to me when I first discovered gal, because I've always had a love for goth fashion and like really dark elements in my wardrobe. And I also love really spooky accessories, like I love skeletons and I love spikes and crosses, so for me this substyle really kind of blends with who I am. In terms of makeup, generally for both what you'll see is a lot of smoky eyes. For me this is what I consider my base makeup for Rokku gal anyway. With goth gal I like to go a lot darker. I use black as a base, but I like to blend it outward too. In terms of contouring, I think it's really important for both Rokku and goth gal to actually contour the shit and really define the features in your face. In terms of Gyaru and color, normally color isn't something that you really do for gal, but in terms of Rokku gal, you can express so much more through your makeup, but you do sort of have to be careful with the colors you use in relation to like lashes and lenses, because sometimes you can sort of border that visual kei aesthetic and people will give you shit from left and right, will tell you, you look visual kei, you are not gyaru, and it's like, it's a very fine line, but my advice is don't be afraid to play. Like, use as much color as you'd like. My, I guess, sort of advice in terms of making it fit better with gal is use more of neutral colored circle lenses if you can when you're playing with colors, because that sort of balances out the whole look and it will not take away from the gal sort of look you are going for. But with that being said, again, like in terms of lenses, I sometimes even use red lenses with gal, but I generally like to use black as a base, just again to balance everything out and so people don't mistake you for a J-rocker for whatever reason. Generally, for both Rokku and goth gal, if you're not really looking to play with color, using sort of like a neutral as a base is a really good idea. Smoky eyes are always in style no matter what. In terms of hair, there's again no presets, nothing like you have to have a hairstyle. that's really specific in terms of this, but a lot of popular things I do see is a lot of side braided styles, a lot of Sujimori hair. Actually, a lot of visual kei hairstyles are popular in Rokku Gyaru, but in terms of Goth Gyaru, basically you can go crazy. Like, I've done buns before, I've done like pigtails, high pigtails, and I like to accessorize with like creepy little accessories. Like, I have bone clips, I have skull hand clips, I even have headbands with spikes on them, even hats. Like, I have a hat with like kitty ears but are all studded. Basically anything that has sort of like a creepy vibe to it, you can stick in your hair. Whatever, it's your hair, you can do what you want. In terms of brands, there's 3 brands in terms of Rokku Gyaru that are more tied to Gyaru as a whole. So those would be Ghost of Harlem, Glad News, as well as Glavel by Tutuha. So those are basically the 3 major ones that are specifically tied to Gyaru and have known Gyaru models for them as well. But in terms of goth gal, you can go with any really goth brand, or any brand that has sort of goth pieces. Like, I know Sex Pot Revenge is actually a good brand to buy from. They have really good pieces. And even Bodyline Japan, I have a pirate skirt. It's actually really cool. It's black and tiered, but then it has asymmetrical ends to them, and that's perfect for goth gal. Basically anything from the Bodyline punk section I really enjoy shopping from. But also in terms of goth gyaru, I find some of the best things you could buy are from brands like Creepsville 666, Hell Bunny has some really good pieces, and even Sourpuss Clothing has a couple good things. Basically for goth gyaru, you can give and take from any sort of inspiration outlet, and even any sort of goth brand as well. So with that, you'll have a bit more freedom, and there's no rules. You can mix and match, you can do whatever you'd like, just as long as you sort of have a gal aesthetic going. In terms of advice for making cords, I guess don't be afraid to experiment, but at the same time, look for inspiration online. I know Amihamu is a really good resource for looking up goth gal, because she's actually a Sex Pot Revenge shop staff, so she really has some fantastic cords, and I highly recommend checking those out. But I guess my own advices are accessories really make or break an outfit, so don't be afraid to accessorize, but also keep in mind a theme. Like, I know if I sort of go with all black, I'm more inclined to go a little bit crazier with accessories. But if you're wearing more color, try and coordinate them. Like, I have a skeleton dress and it's black and green, so I usually wear my green bone clips with it. So basically, go crazy, but also look for good resources online. What accessories are common within the style? Again, basically for goth gyaru as well as Rokku Gyaru, a lot of chokers. You'll see a lot of chokers. Cross motif things, so a lot of crosses. Piercings. Piercings and tattoos are actually really common in both styles, which is actually quite a big debate in gal as a whole. People are always afraid, can I be gyaru with piercings? Can I be gyaru with tattoos? Of course you can. There's tons of gals. Nana Chopi is actually one of my favorite gyaru, and she's beautiful as hell, and she is all pierced to shit, and I love it, and I hope to be like that someday. Yeah, basically anything that you find, skeletons, anything. Like, I go crazy at Halloween. You can pick up so many accessories for both goth gyaru as well as Rokku Gyaru. Basically anything you can find that sort of gives you either a goth vibe or a Rokku vibe. So really it's up to you, but generally garter tights, tattoo tights, chokers, lots of crosses, lots of different pendants are really common accessories you can find. Do you have any tips for dressing through the seasons? Yeah, actually, I am Canadian, so I have seen temperatures as low as minus 52 degrees Celsius, and it sucks. But for the most part, I do try and I try to dress gal, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. But in terms of the seasons, my advice for the winter is you can definitely layer up. I know for goth gal, I like to pair maxi skirts with. We have this really cool thing in Canada. I don't know if any other place sells them. Probably, I'm just being an idiot, but they're called microfiber tights. They're essentially tights. You can get them in any color. I prefer black, obviously. And they're really thick material tights with a fleece lining. So basically, these things can last through an ice age, and you will be solid through the winter, and they're awesome, and I love them. And I like to wear those under a lot of different pieces. Even when I'm wearing a maxi skirt, you'll always find me wearing microfiber tights in the winter because it gets cold as hell here. So my advice in terms of making cords in the winter is don't be afraid to really layer it up. Like, that's basically what both styles consist of. Like, in terms of Rokku Gyaru, you can have skirts paired with probably about like 4 different types of tights. Like, for example, you could just wear tattoo tights with garters and even leg warmers if you're that cold. And yeah, even scarves. I have a really nice scarf from work, actually. It's a black infinity scarf, but it has holes in it. Perfect for both Rokku and goth gal. But essentially for winter, don't be afraid to really dress it up. Don't be afraid to cover yourself, because you can do both. You can be sexy and covered. Does not matter. In terms of summer, I find it's also difficult to dress in both styles because there is so much black that you end up just like sweating to death, and it's very hard. So I guess my advice is go with like really sheer tights, like tights with a really low thread count. And also lose the cardigan, lose any sort of sweatshirt you have. Don't be afraid to bare your shoulders. There's lots of cute off the shoulder tops that Glavel has. Just don't be afraid and don't sweat to death. That's my only advices. In terms of anything extra to mention about both styles is, again, it's very open to interpretation. You can do whatever you'd like with it. My only advice is you will be called visual kei a lot. You will be confused because it is such a new and such a unknown sort of branch of gal that people won't at first take you as seriously as you may think you might like to be taken seriously. But again, take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I've been called visual kei a million fucking times, and it doesn't get better with each time. I'm kind of just like, what the fuck, man? But you know what? It's really just, it's a fun style. So if you ever have the opportunity to dress in it, I say go for it, because you will love it, and it gives you such confidence, and you will love the way you look and feel about yourself. So yeah, basically, don't be afraid to go crazy with things. Don't be afraid to experiment. And just be you. Just do you. And yeah, so thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys again soon.